These three motorcycle brands are about to disappear forever, and most riders will not see it coming until the showroom has already changed. The warning signs usually start quietly. A dealer stops pushing the badge. Parts take longer to show up. Buyers begin asking whether the company will still stand behind the bike 5 years from now. And once that doubt enters the garage, the brand is already in trouble. These are not forgotten names nobody cares about. They are badges riders have trusted, defended, and built real memories around. But in today's motorcycle market, loyalty alone does not keep a brand alive. Support does. Money does. Dealer confidence does. Today, we are counting down 3 motorcycle brands that could disappear forever. Stay until the end, because this final brand could change everything. Number 3, Gas, the first badge that could be sacrificed. The first warning never sounds like a siren. It sounds like a salesman lowering his voice. It looks like a red motorcycle sitting too long near the back wall. It feels like a rider staring at the tank, liking what he sees, then wondering whether the name behind it will still be protected 5 years from now. That is where the red badge becomes dangerous to own and easy to sacrifice. Not because it lacks grit, not because riders cannot respect it. The problem is priority. When a motorcycle group gets dragged into financial pressure, every badge under the roof stops being judged by passion and starts being judged by survival. That is cold, but it is real. Older riders know the difference between a bad bike and a risky brand. A bad bike shows its trouble in the garage. A risky brand shows its trouble at the dealer counter, in parts delays, in nervous resale numbers, and in the way staff stop talking about the future with confidence. The red name has always had a rough kind of charm. It never tried to be polished furniture. It did not sell the image of a cross-country couch or a chrome cathedral. Its appeal came from dirt, balance, throttle control, and the kind of riding that leaves scars on plastic. That attitude matters, especially in a market where too many machines have become expensive lifestyle props. Still, character does not guarantee protection. In a rescue situation, the smallest personality often becomes the easiest cut. Executives may admire the badge, but admiration does not pay debt. Dealers may like the machines, but liking them is not the same as ordering deep inventory. Riders may praise the spirit, then buy the safer name when their own money is on the table. That is the wound forming here. The red badge lives inside a larger family, and family ties can help or hurt. Shared engineering can reduce cost. Shared platforms can keep production possible, yet those same ties can also blur identity. If a buyer sees similar bloodlines wearing stronger colors, the smaller badge must explain itself harder. A brand that needs constant explaining is vulnerable. Every explanation costs time. Every hesitation costs momentum. Every unsold unit makes the dealer more careful next season. That is how confidence drains, without any dramatic announcement. A practical rider sees the pattern early. First, the showroom gives the badge less space. Then, the salesman pushes the familiar name first. Then used buyers start asking uncomfortable questions. After that, owners become defenders instead of just riders. They spend more time proving they made a smart choice than enjoying the machine they bought. That is not how healthy loyalty feels. Healthy loyalty sounds relaxed. It does not need a speech every time somebody asks about parts, service, or resale. The red badge still has real believers, and they are not fools. They see something honest in it. They see a brand that feels less corporate, less polished, less afraid of mud. In a world full of padded seats, giant screens, and dealership theater, there is still value in a machine identity that wants to get dirty. That is why losing it would matter. It would not just remove another logo from brochures. It would remove one of the few remaining reminders that motorcycles are supposed to be physical. A rider should feel the ground, the throttle, and the consequence of his own hands. The red badge understands that better than many larger names. The problem is that the market has become less forgiving. Buyers are older. Financing bites harder. Insurance is not gentle. Families think twice before another payment. In that environment, a man does not gamble on romance unless he trusts the company behind it. Trust is the whole game now. A brand can survive criticism, ugly comments, and even a bad sales season. It cannot easily survive uncertainty. Once buyers start wondering whether support will thin out, they pause. Once they pause, dealers pause. Once dealers pause, the badge starts shrinking in public view. That shrinkage is what riders should watch. Not just press releases. Watch the floor. Watch the parts counter. Watch how often the brand appears in serious future talk. Watch whether the company speaks about it like a protected identity or treats it like leftover color in a crowded catalog. There is a human side to that too. Men who have spent years wrenching on bikes know that factory support matters more after the honeymoon ends. A beautiful machine is easy to love on day one. The truth comes later, when something breaks, when a part is back-ordered, when the nearest dealer stops carrying what you need, or when resale buyers use the brand's uncertainty against you. That is where the red badge becomes a warning. It may still deliver pride in the saddle, but ownership pride needs confidence behind it. Without that confidence, the badge turns from a statement into a gamble. And most experienced riders have already paid enough tuition to know the difference. This is why it sits at number 3. It is not being placed here because it is weak. It is placed here because it may be the first name. Leadership can justify trimming if the group needs to become leaner. That is a different kind of danger, and sometimes a more serious one. A weak brand dies loudly. A smaller, useful brand dies quietly. It gets less attention, fewer chances, smaller plans, and softer dealer commitment. Then one day, riders realize the name that once had real bite has become background noise. The red badge does not deserve that fate. It brought color, dirt, credibility, and a workmanlike edge to a market that often forgets working riders. It spoke to men who still respect skill over comfort and mud over polish. That spirit deserves more than a quiet fade-out. Still, the road ahead will not be decided by sentiment. It will be decided by whether the parent structure believes the badge earns its keep. If the answer is yes, the red name can survive as the raw, rough branch of the family. If the answer is no, it may become the first sacrifice made in the name of discipline. That is the hard truth. The motorcycle may still be worth riding. The riders may still believe, and the badge may still carry a spark. Yet, in a crisis, sparks get protected only when someone is willing to spend money, keeping them alive. For riders watching from the garage, the lesson is simple. Do not only listen to slogans. Watch commitment. Watch dealer behavior. Watch whether the company keeps building a future around the name. When a badge starts looking optional, seasoned riders should pay attention. The danger is not dramatic enough for casual viewers, and that makes it worse. Quiet losses rarely get defended in time. By the time riders notice fewer models, thinner promotion, and nervous dealers, the decision may already be made. A badge can still have loyal owners and still lose the boardroom argument when hard survival money finally arrives. Because optional can become forgotten faster than most people think. Higher up the family tree, a much older name faces a different danger, surviving the rescue while losing the soul that made riders respect it. If this breakdown is giving you the straight truth riders need, hit like, subscribe to Motorcycle Heads, and share your take in the comments. Which badge do you think gets sacrificed first? I want your call. Number 2, Husqvarna, the heritage name that could survive, but lose its soul. Some brands do not die loudly. They get polished until the old scars disappear. That is the risk facing the white badge. It may not be the first name cut from the family, and it may not be the easiest one to dismiss. It carries real history, real respect, and quiet authority. Yet none of that guarantees the spirit survives when a wounded company starts cleaning house. There is a difference between keeping a logo alive and keeping a brand alive. A logo can stay on a tank. A name can stay on a dealer sign. Shirts can still hang on a rack. But the real question is whether the machine still feels like it came from the same stubborn idea that made riders care first. The white badge always had that stubborn idea. It never needed to shout. It felt colder, more disciplined, and more precise than louder names around it. It was not built around chrome theater or lifestyle posing. It was the kind of name that appealed to riders who notice details and do not need a crowd approving their choice. That matters to older riders. Men who have been around machines long enough can tell when a brand has purpose. They do not need a brochure to explain it. They recognize the dealer's confidence and the way owners talk after years of use. That is why this situation feels serious. The white badge is not some disposable side experiment. It has earned respect. It carries old competition blood and a modern identity that still feels different. Losing it outright would hurt. Keeping it alive while shaving away its character might hurt even more. That is how corporate damage often works. It does not always smash the thing you love. Sometimes it sands it down, makes it safer, makes it easier to explain, and calls the result progress. On paper, that can look responsible. In a garage, it can feel like surrender. A brand under pressure has to answer hard questions. Does it sell enough? Does it overlap too much? Does it need separate marketing? Does it deserve separate investment? Does it strengthen the family or complicate the rescue? Those are not romantic questions. They are the questions that decide survival. Riders ask different questions. Will the dealer stand behind it? Will parts keep moving? Will the company keep improving it? Will the name still mean something when it comes time to sell? Will ownership feel solid, or will every conversation begin with uncertainty? That uncertainty is poison. A man can admire a brand and still walk away if he thinks support may weaken. He can respect the history and still protect his wallet. The white badge depends on thoughtful buyers. That is strength and weakness together. Thoughtful buyers study. They compare. They notice trouble early. When the parent company is under strain, those buyers do not rush. They pause. A pause at purchase time can hurt more than criticism. Dealers feel that pause quickly. They start ordering carefully. They push familiar names first. They keep the white badge visible, but not always central. Then the public reads the room. A smaller presence becomes its own warning. This is where a heritage name becomes vulnerable. It may be too valuable to erase, but too specialized to protect fully. That middle position is dangerous. It can lead to a future where the badge remains, but the sharp edges get filed away. There is a personal observation here that riders will understand. A motorcycle brand loses its soul when it stops being willing. Not when it changes, not when it modernizes. It loses its soul when it stops taking the risks that made it worth defending. The white badge still has something worth defending. It represents a quieter kind of pride, not soft pride, not showroom pride. More like the pride of a well-kept tool that works because somebody cared about function before applause. That kind of identity is rare now. Too many brands chase the middle. Too many machines are built to offend nobody. A name that stands apart should be protected, not diluted into another safe department under a larger roof. Yet protection costs money. Distinction costs money. Dealer training, parts support, future planning, and honest product direction all cost money. During a rescue, every one of those costs gets questioned. That is why riders should watch action, not language. Corporate statements can praise heritage all day. What matters is whether the company keeps giving the badge room to breathe. Real commitment shows up in dealer confidence, clear direction, and support. If those things weaken, the badge begins to change. Not overnight, slowly. First, the lineup feels narrower. Then, the choices feel safer. Then, riders start saying it is not quite what it used to be. That phrase is usually where the funeral begins. Survival can fool people. As long as the name remains visible, casual buyers assume everything is fine. Experienced riders know better. They know a brand can still appear alive while its future gets negotiated somewhere else. That is why the white badge ranks above the red one. It may not be the easiest sacrifice, but its loss would carry more weight. The red badge could vanish quietly. The white badge could remain visible and still. Lose the reason riders respected it. That is a more complicated danger. It does not give owners one clean moment to resist. It happens through small decisions: less independence, less boldness, less separation from the main name, more safe thinking dressed as discipline. Some discipline is needed. A company in trouble cannot keep every idea alive just because riders admire it. Waste has to be cut. Overlap has to be managed. Still, there is a line. Cut waste, not identity. Trim confusion, not character. Build a stronger company without turning every badge into the same cautious machine wearing different paint. That should be the lesson for the white badge. If it survives, survival must mean more than name preservation. It must mean the company understands why riders looked at it differently. It must mean the white badge still has permission to be serious, distinct, and cold around the edges. Older riders respect that honesty. They do not need every brand to act like their old touring bike. They just want the machine and the name to mean something real. A badge that knows itself earns more respect than a badge chasing everyone. The white badge can still come through this storm with its spine intact. It has history, it has credibility, it has a reason to exist. What it needs now is proof that the people holding the purse strings understand that reason. Without proof, heritage becomes decoration. A proud past becomes a sales tool. The soul becomes a paragraph in a brochure. Riders who know better will feel the difference. That is the danger at number 2. Not disappearance by collapse, but disappearance by dilution. The name may remain, the color may remain, and the story may still be repeated. Yet, if the edge is gone, the brand has already lost something no rescue plan can easily restore. At the center of the fire, the orange giant faces the hardest question of all. Can it save the whole family without becoming really ordinary itself? Before we move into the final brand, subscribe to Motorcycle Heads if you want grounded motorcycle truth without corporate polish. We follow the money, the dealers, the parts, and the riders, because the story never ends at the showroom floor. Number 1, KTM, the giant, fighting to survive its own ambition. The loudest warning in a motorcycle company does not always come from silence on a factory floor. Sometimes it comes when a proud name starts sounding less like a racer and more like a bank file. The talk changes. Riders stop hearing confidence from the showroom. Dealers stop speaking with the same chest. Men who once argued about handling, racing, and character begin asking a harder question. Will this company still stand behind my bike after the sale? That is why the orange giant sits at the center of the fire. It is not simply another badge under pressure. It is the roof beam. If the main name weakens, the smaller names lose shelter. Every dealer, owner, worker, and buyer feels that vibration. For years, the orange identity was built on nerve. It sold aggression, sharpness, and the feeling that a motorcycle should push back a little. It did not grow through soft comfort talk. It grew through racing, dirt, hard edges, and machines that felt alive before the clutch even came out. That kind of reputation is powerful. It makes riders believe. It makes dealers proud to point at the floor. It makes a brand feel like more than transportation. It becomes a statement about how a man wants to ride, and how much ordinary he is willing to reject. Yet, ambition has a habit of becoming heavy. A company that keeps pushing outward can start mistaking expansion for strength. More models, more markets, more promises, more inventory, more pressure. When the road is smooth, that looks bold. When the market cools, it starts looking reckless. That is the hard lesson here. The orange giant did not get in trouble because riders forgot its name. The trouble came because the structure behind the name became too loaded. Growth demanded cash. Factories needed rhythm. Dealers needed movement. Creditors needed belief. Once those pieces stopped lining up, the brand's famous confidence started facing a different kind of opponent. Riders understand mechanical pressure. Put too much load on any machine, and something begins to complain. Ignore the sound long enough, and the repair gets uglier. The same thing happens to companies. Pride can hide the noise for a while, but it cannot change the damage. What makes This painful is that the brand still has fire. Nobody who knows motorcycles should pretend it became respected by accident. It earned attention by building a personality most manufacturers were too cautious to attempt. Even riders who prefer long highway machines could respect that. The orange name had conviction. That conviction is exactly what must survive the rescue. A company can become leaner without becoming lifeless. It can cut waste without cutting character. It can learn discipline without handing the throttle to men who only understand spreadsheets. That balance will decide everything. Too much freedom helped create strain. Too much control could bury the attitude that made riders care. The brand has to become smarter without becoming ordinary. That is a narrow road, and narrow roads expose weak steering fast. For owners and buyers, the danger is practical. They are not only watching headlines, they are watching dealers. They are watching parts support. They are watching whether the people behind the counter still speak with certainty. They are watching whether future plans sound like commitment or damage control. That matters more than marketing. A motorcycle brand proves itself after the sale. It proves itself when a part is needed, when a warranty question appears, when resale gets tested, and when a dealer has to choose whether to keep believing. Real riders know that ownership is not a poster on the wall. It is a relationship with a company that either shows up or fades away. The orange giant must show up now. It must reassure the men who already bought in, not just chase new attention. It must treat loyalty like something earned, not something guaranteed. When a rider has spent years defending a brand, he deserves more than polished language and careful promises. There is a human cost here too. Behind the badge are workers, families, engineers, warehouse crews, mechanics, salesmen, and small dealers who trusted the climb. When a company tightens, those people feel it before the public does. Cuts and delays may sound clean in an office, but they land hard in real homes. Older riders know that story. Many came from trades, trucks, service bays, and factory towns. They know what it means when proud companies start using cautious words. They know confidence can disappear from a workplace before it disappears from a sign. That is why this is not just a business story, it is a trust story. The orange giant built a following by making riders feel something honest. If the rescue turns that honesty into corporate caution, the name may survive while the belief fades. That would be the real disappearance. Not a sudden end, not a locked gate. A slower loss. The color remains. The logo remains. The old stories remain, yet the machines stop feeling like they were built by people willing to take a stand. Some riders will say survival is enough. Maybe from a distance it is. For a man who knows what a brand once meant, survival without spirit feels like a cheap repair on a good engine. It may run, but something important is missing. The company needs discipline, no doubt. Waste has to go. Overlap has to be handled. The family cannot keep every idea alive just because somebody loved it in a meeting. Hard choices are part of any real rebuild. Still, there is a line worth defending. Cut confusion, not conviction. Trim excess, not identity. Protect support, not slogans. If the orange giant learns that lesson, it can come back stronger, clearer, and still dangerous. If it does not, the damage spreads. The red badge becomes easier to sacrifice. The white badge becomes easier to dilute. The main name becomes a warning about what happens when ambition outruns judgment and rescue comes late. That is why practical riders should keep their eyes open. Do not judge only by paint, race wins, or old reputation. Watch whether dealers stay confident. Watch whether parts flow. Watch whether future models still feel like they were built for riders, not just creditors. Watch whether the company talks to owners like men who matter. A real motorcycle brand is not saved by a press release. It is saved when riders trust it enough to buy, ride, maintain, and defend it. That trust is earned in boring places, service counters, warranty desks, honest dealers, and parts shelves. The orange giant still has a chance. It still has a name riders recognize, a history riders respect. and a spark worth protecting. That is why its fall would matter, and why its recovery must be real. The bill for ambition has arrived. Maybe that pain forces a better company to emerge. Maybe it teaches the giant to protect the fire without burning down the house. Or maybe it becomes the final proof that even the proudest motorcycle names can outrun their own road. That truth will matter long after the headlines cool down again. When the dust settles, riders will remember one thing clearly. The badge that survives is not always the brand that remains. 3 brands, 1 storm, and 1 hard truth. A motorcycle name only survives when riders still trust what stands behind it. Parts, dealers, resale, and pride matter long after the paint shines on day 1. If these badges fade, the road will remember what the boardroom forgot. Tell me which brand you think is most at risk. Hit like if you want more straight motorcycle truth, and subscribe to Motorcycle Heads for the next breakdown.